Aubrey Marcus, who is a well-known figure in the spiritual health, personal development space, has recently introduced us to something called radical monogamy. And I think any reasonable person who digs a little deeper would agree that this is not monogamy in any sense of the word and is not really even radical. But this video is not going to be a full-on reaction to Aubrey and his recent podcast. There's a lot of really great response videos out there that I encourage you to check out if you're interested in that. So you don't really even need to know any of this Aubrey drama to get value from this video, because what I'm talking about is an underlying issue that is universal. It could be anyone. We have a man and a woman in a relationship. They've been married for several years. And at some point, this man decided that he no longer wanted to be monogamous, which was actually an original condition and boundary of their union. But somewhere along the line, he wanted to bring another person into the mix, which she agreed to, and they did. And now he wants to have children with both of these women. But the evidence shows that his wife has always wanted monogamy, and so we can see her walking this very fine line between compromise and self-abandonment in the name of love and devotion and spiritual growth and healing. And this is the universal dilemma that all humans will come into contact with at some point. And it's this very real question of, when does compromise in a relationship become self-abandonment? And how do you know the difference? This question really matters to anyone out there that wants to be in a healthy, loving, conscious relationship, whether that's with one person or more than one person. And this even goes beyond romantic relationships. This can come up in friendships, with family members, even in like a workplace dynamic. Anywhere that there is two or more humans relating with each other. And another important question we're asking here is, when does doing the work and self-regulating and pursuing spiritual growth become a form of bypassing reality and avoiding the truth and trying to bypass these very important parts of the human experience, which is why we're all here, right? We are all spiritual beings who come here to have a human experience. And our body is where a huge part of that experience takes place. That's why I do the work that I do, bringing people back into the body, because this is how we come into full contact with life, with what it means to be a living human being. I've also been in the self-development, personal growth, online coaching world for over a decade. I've been the client, the seeker, the one doing the work, and I'm also a coach. So something I see in myself first, and in my clients, and in the people around me, and now clearly in the collective consciousness, is that sometimes in the name of growth and in order to get our needs met for love and belonging and safety, we abandon ourselves. But first, let's come back to the question of compromise versus self-abandonment. In any relationship, conflict is inevitable. Disagreements are normal, and compromise is absolutely necessary. Like, you don't get to stay the same and get your way all the time and never consider another human being's desires and needs and preferences if you want to be in a healthy, loving relationship. But there's a very real difference between true conscious compromise and a physiological nervous system response that looks like fawning and people pleasing and overgiving. And the way these two things feel in your body is going to be completely different. Real compromise comes from clear communication and understanding and self-awareness and presence and mutual respect and a regulated nervous system and a connection to what's happening in your inner world. Self-abandoning comes from wounding and trauma and dysregulation. And in the case of dating and relationships, there's often a belief that love has to be earned and is conditional on you acting a certain way to keep the peace and to get or keep love and to avoid being left. So rather than being connected to what's happening on the inside, you're disconnected from yourself and attuned to what's happening on the outside, what other people want and need. You abandon yourself so that other people don't abandon you. And this is where things can get really tricky, especially in the spiritual and personal growth world, because we're told to stay calm and regulated. We're told to expand our capacity, to take radical responsibility for your own experience. We're told to get out of our comfort zones. And yes, all of those things can be helpful, but they can also be used to override what you really want and really need. So things might look good from the outside, but inside the body, in the nervous system, it's a completely different story. Someone might look regulated, but inside they're just stuck in a freeze response or they're completely dissociated. That was me for most of my life. People thinking I'm always so chill and cool and calm and collected and easygoing. Like, no, I was frozen. I was numb. I was self-medicating. And many people out there are constantly self-regulating and regulating themselves right out of their body's natural wisdom. They're stuck in a freeze response and calling it peace. Or they have socially acceptable addictions like work and perfectionism or obsession with being healthy. They're using plant medicines recreationally and calling it spirituality. They're pushing themselves so far out of their comfort zones that they're just reinforcing their deepest wounds in the name of growth and spiritual evolution. And in dating and relationships, this could look like confusing chemistry for trauma bonds because you don't know what healthy attachment really feels like. You might believe that overgiving is proof of how loving you are, and it will help you to get the love you want and get your needs met. Or you're trying to make yourself into someone that you are not in order to be lovable, in order to get love, or in order to keep love. And you convince yourself that if you could just do more, if you could just love more and be more open and accepting, if you could just be more feminine and surrender, then you'll finally be chosen and you'll finally feel safe. That used to be me, so I know it doesn't work that way. I spent years trying to fix myself, believing that if I could just be better and do and say all the right things and be more spiritual, be more feminine, be more regulated, be more successful, be more unbothered, then I'd be lovable and I'd be enough. And someone would finally choose me and validate me. So I stayed in relationships, both romantic and friendships, that really hurt me because I thought that my suffering somehow proved my worth. It proved how much I cared. Like, look at how much I'm suffering for this, for you. So I know how it feels to believe that suffering is necessary to evolve and grow, and that suffering will help you get what you want, and that suffering is some kind of morally superior path and makes your love more important or more meaningful, but it doesn't. Real love doesn't require you to suffer, and it doesn't require you to abandon yourself or override your boundaries again and again and again. Real love doesn't want you to hide parts of yourself. Real love doesn't want a version of you that isn't actually you. Real love doesn't want you to sacrifice who you are for someone else. Pain and suffering is not a prerequisite for love. And this is why somatic work and embodiment is so essential. This is why it's so important to learn how to stay connected to your own body and your own experience and your own truth, and to learn how to validate yourself and your life from the inside out, because your mind might be saying, I'm doing the work, I'm doing everything right, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do, while your body is in a full-on trauma response, or at the very least, a chronic stress response. Your nervous system does not lie. Like, it can't lie. It knows the truth, and it's trying to communicate that truth to you all the time. All you have to do is slow down and listen. And the reality of life and your nervous system is that sometimes the only way to heal and grow is to choose yourself and walk away. It means choosing your own truth over comfort and familiarity, and trusting yourself to handle anything that comes your way. Because true healing isn't about learning how to tolerate more dysfunction. And the goal isn't to always be calm and regulated and unbothered. It's about being connected to what's going on inside of you, no matter what it is, and having access to the entire range of human emotion, and being able to experience all of life, whatever it is, and be present with all of it. So, this is really just an invitation to practice tuning into your own body and learning to interpret the messages that it's always sending you, so that when you get that hit in your body telling you that something is off, whether you're on a first date or have been married for years, or you're walking down the street on the sidewalk, or are listening to somebody on a podcast or YouTube, like, no matter how big their platform is, you trust yourself and your inner wisdom and your intuition above anybody else's.